Welcome to Black People Love Paramore. Contrary to the title, it is not a podcast about the band Paramore. It's a show about the common and uncommon interests of Black people in order to help the community feel a bit more seen. I'm your host, Sequoia. And before we get into today's episode, please take a second, rate us and write us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please. 5 stars only because we're 5-star bitches. We're Dio Gotti. Okay, now we can get into today's episode topic, which you already know. You see the title. It's manifestation. And for today's guest, we have Ashley Chatman, actress and online fitness coach. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Okay, manifestation. Today we are talking about manifestation. So what is manifestation? Manifestation is a self-development practice that involves using thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions to turn a desired outcome into a reality. The practice is based on the idea that positive thoughts attract positive experiences and negative thoughts attract negative experiences. Ashley, what has been your experience with manifestation? What's like the first thing you manifested?
Man.
Or should I say, what's the first thing you purposefully manifested? Because it's my understanding that we're like always kind of manifesting. So what's the first thing you purposely manifested?
I definitely manifested having my own business that I now run full time and being an entrepreneur because I'm a creative at heart. I'm not a 9-to-5 girly, no shade to anyone who is, but it wasn't for me. And I remember working different jobs, trying to stay stable because I live in LA. I'm also an actor, that whole thing. So wanting to create some type of financial stability for myself, but do it in a really fun and creative way. And, while business definitely has its challenges, it's not for everyone. I will say that. I do really love being an entrepreneur and being able to create and work for myself and not be capped in terms of how much money I make. So yeah, I would definitely say that I manifested being my own business owner.
No, I love that. I'm also not a 9-to-5 girly, although I do have a 9-to-5. Hopefully
we do what we gotta do,
have to be the case, right? Yeah. Hopefully soon that will have to be the case. But how did you go about manifesting your business? Was it something that you always wanted from the time you were a child, or did you kind of actively use some manifestation technique to get it?
So I feel like I was first introduced to the concept of manifestation when The Secret came out. I don't know if you remember. Yep. Shout out to The Secret.
I do remember The Secret. If you don't know what The Secret is, The Secret was this book that hit the scene and
everybody
really
and their mama was into
everybody. And it was about manifestation. It was just like, harnessing your thoughts in order to create the reality that you want, more or less. And then it was turned into a film, a movie of some sort, like some type of like little short.
They had a lot of stuff. They had books, they had tapes, they had DVDs, they had films. So I remember being a kid and seeing so many people, and my mom included, gravitate to that concept of being a vibrational match and, thinking positive thoughts in order to attract the things that you want into your life. So I feel like that was sort of my beginning of the understanding of that concept, manifestation, law of attraction. And then once the pandemic happened, I started going to therapy more consistently because I realized that I was struggling a lot with negative self-talk and I wanted to work on that. And I just wanted to find other practices to be able to help me with boosting like my mental confidence in myself and, boosting that positive self-talk that I had. And manifestation was like one of the concepts that kind of came up again, and am I doing my research on it and just sort of seeing people talking about strengthening the mind and how your thoughts and your beliefs create your reality. And it was something that I started to gravitate to, but more so I feel like I'm a believer of manifestation, but in more of a rooted concept, right? And not necessarily just thinking that it's all, woo-woo and it's up in the sky, right? A little bit more grounded, and there's some science behind it too that supports manifestation as well. So I think that's where I kind of lean more towards, and it isn't just thoughts and beliefs, but it's also the action too. That's really important. So it's believing in yourself enough to take the actions that you need in order to manifest the things that you want in your life.
That makes a lot of sense. And it kind of reminds me of something that I saw Cynthia Erivo say. Cynthia Erivo, for those of you who may not know, is the new Elphaba in Wicked. She's a period. You already know. She's opposite Ariana Grande. And I saw her speak at Culture Con a few months back, and she said something like, it wasn't until she could prove that she believed in herself, that other people started being willing to take a chance on her and believe in her.
Yeah.
So she had to bet on herself, but not only just like theoretically bet on herself, but she had to be willing to do X, Y, and Z thing that's like, look, I'm willing to put my investment into myself. You should also do that. And
Yeah.
people could see that she was doing that, and they're like, oh, bet, yeah.
For
Okay.
sure.
And it like, so that definitely makes sense. Even if you're not thinking about it from a manifestation standpoint, if you're like, okay, well, I have to believe in myself in order to act like I believe in myself in order for other people to act like they believe in me.
Exactly.
That
Because how
definitely makes
often do you
sense.
do things that you don't believe you can do, right? It's hardly never. You're going to find some way. Never, right? So you
I've
find
never
you
thought about that.
right. You either consciously or subconsciously will find ways to sabotage or make excuses or procrastinate. And it's because you have a deep rooted belief that this is not going to happen or I can't do it. But, you know, we're in the age of social media and like highlight reels online. So people like to be seen doing things or they like to feel like, oh, I'm doing something. But I think also what manifestation does as well is it forces you to sort of look inward and to really analyze, do I believe this or what do I believe or what are my thoughts? Because once you address that, I think that allows you to open yourself up so much to the point where you do become magnetic and other people are like, oh, okay, she is really on her path or she's doing something that, you know, I feel really connected to. So like, let me help her. And that is also a part of how you manifest.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I think, do you have any method that you specifically use to manifest, or is it just kind of a more therapeutic, working on your sense of self?
I would say I have practices, like spiritual practices that really help to ground me and that I use, you know, really throughout all of my manifestation, you know, techniques. And affirmations is one of them. I actually have, it's like a melanated affirmation card deck here. And
I
it just
love
has
that.
different cards with words of affirmation, things to encourage you. Also simple things, like sometimes I like to color, you know, as a way to help me to visualize, zone out. Sometimes just going into nature, like feet on the grass, literally, and grounding myself in nature. That is also a manifestation practice. Sometimes it could be as simple as I just need to take a nap and I just need to think on and dream about what it is that I want. I want to think on about the things that I'm trying to manifest. And sometimes that also helps to refocus me as well. So it's a mix of different things. And I think it all just kind of depends on the mood that I am in. And then, you know, also just where I'm at that particular day in that moment.
I love that you named all of those as ways to manifest, because I feel like a lot of times social media has kind of made it seem like the only way that you can manifest is if you meditate exactly properly, and if
I'm so
you,
against that.
you know, and if you script out these
Yeah.
exact words and make sure that you have accounted for every possible alternative that these words could be taken as, you know, like,
and you have to eat these special berries and
you
you have to have been
know,
in Zen for 3 hours. And
right.
yeah, you have to have a conversation with the ancestors. It's like, it doesn't always have to be that woo woo and deep.
I love
Sometimes
that you
it's
just
just
said
the simple
color.
things. Yep.
Like go outside, touch grass, literally touch grass, take a nap. And that's it. No, I really love that. That also reminds me of another podcast I was listening to. I think I was listening to a Diary of a CEO, and one of the guests on there was talking about the importance of awe as an emotion. So experiencing awe, and how if you ask people, they will say they think they only experience awe maybe once a year maximum, maybe even sometimes a couple times in their life. But what they're not realizing is that awe is all around us all of the time. And it's not this huge, grand emotion. It's kind of this like subtle, like, wow, this is, you know, like, wow, this is really interesting. And when you speak about nature, that's definitely a place where you can experience awe easily. And I feel like getting into an awe state kind of opens you up to be able to manifest a little bit easier, bring your dreams, bring your thoughts into a reality a little bit easier. You look up, you see a very vibrant sunset, and you're just like, damn.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
That
I get
is
to experience
beautiful.
this.
Like
Yeah.
I right now on this planet get to experience this, me, this tiny being get to experience this magnificent, beautiful, colorful sunset. That's something that happens every single day. Theoretically, we could be awestruck every single day. I think a lot of us could spend less time looking down at our phones, me, myself included. I'm sitting here talking to myself more or less.
Right.
Spend less time, you know,
Yeah.
looking down into our phones, and just simply the act of looking up brings more
Mm-hmm.
possibility of being awestruck more often. You see a bird that you think is pretty making a certain sound, you know, you're like, damn,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Like, that's just cool.
And I'm really glad that you mentioned that because, like you said, we can be in awe of really anything. And, you know, gratitude is also another part of manifestation. I'm not really a firm believer in you've got to be positive all of the time in order to manifest, and you have to be grateful all of the time in order to manifest. I just don't think that is realistic, and it doesn't. It's not fair to the human experience. But I will say that, you know, when you are focused on gratitude, and you know, gratitude could be something as simple as like, I'm so grateful that I woke up today, that I opened my eyes today. I mean, when you think about it, just us even being here is like a 1 in a million shot, right? Like
It's
us even
shocking.
being born,
Literally.
there's a whole calculation of these are a million different chances
Right.
that happen, and we're here. And so like even just thinking of that, waking up, that you can be in awe of that. And I think sometimes settling into that gratitude more often than not, it just puts you in a better space to where you can see opportunities, to where, you know, maybe you might even open yourself up to taking a specific action that you wouldn't have taken had you not been in that space. So yeah, all of that is super important to manifestation. It's something that's so simple, right? It's not out of anyone's grasp. It's something that literally everyone can do every day.
That is so real. Sometimes I sit back and think about the fact that I was born and I am me, you know, like this is who I am and I was born, because any small thing could have not
Could have knocked it
allowed
out.
that
Yeah.
to take place, you know. I don't know about you, but my parents met in a club, like a random club that my mom never went to very often. She was just in there. She met my dad. She was like, and she ended up
And bam.
and
Here you
bam,
are.
and here we are. You know, now
Yeah.
I exist. Now
Yeah,
did I
no.
ask to exist? That's a different question.
Okay,
But-
and we could go down a whole rabbit hole with that.
Right,
Talk about
right.
it. Talk about it. No, but that's so true because, and I don't know how true the story is, but what I was told when I was a kid was that my mom didn't originally know that she was pregnant. I have a twin brother. She didn't know that she was pregnant with the two of us, and she went to the doctor, and one doctor thought that we were tumors, and the doctor was getting ready to schedule a surgery to have us, the
Stop.
tumors, removed. And for some reason, my mom was like, you know what? I just want to get a second opinion. So she goes to another doctor, and the doctor's like, not only are these not tumors, but you're pregnant. And not only are you pregnant with one child, you're having twins. So that could have been a whole situation, you know,
Shocking.
if she had
Yes.
went in and not gotten that second opinion, you know. So yeah, again, I think that was also just a part of like divine spiritual intervention. You know, I think that that's one way that you can look at it. Okay, things are working for you.
Yeah, things are
Mm-hmm.
working for you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, one of the few times that I can remember, not one of the few times. I feel like I'll be manifesting stuff sometimes. But I think one of the early times that I was purposefully manifesting was in 2015, 2016. I really wanted, and now I look back on this, I'm like, LOL, girl. I really wanted to work at BuzzFeed. Deeply wanted to work at BuzzFeed. It was just,
It was the place to
seemed like,
be at that
you know what I
time.
mean?
Yes.
Like, it was the place to be. Like, I know it's washed up now, but you guys, at the time, like, BuzzFeed was that
okay,
girl.
it was that girl.
And
shout out Quinta Brunson. Yes.
of course, shout
of
out Quinta.
course.
Hello, Quinta. I just deeply wanted to work at BuzzFeed. And so I would lay in bed at night before I went to sleep, and I would just picture myself at BuzzFeed. And I pictured it as this assortment of colorful walls, and you could like take Instagram photos in front of it, and it just seemed like a fun, like young, hip workplace.
Yeah.
And I would get so into it that I could feel tears forming in my eyes
I
sometimes.
love it.
I wish I could get this level of emotion for something fucking else. But here I am manifesting BuzzFeed in 2016. And then I was working at a separate job at a company called Attention. One of my coworkers ended up getting a job at BuzzFeed, and she was like, I'm going to bring you over. And I was like, I had never talked to her about wanting to work at BuzzFeed, anything of the sort. She was like, I'm going to bring you over. And I was like, okay. She hadn't even gotten the job at this point. When she was telling me she was going to bring me over, she had not gotten a job at BuzzFeed. She was annoyed at our company. She was like, I'm going to BuzzFeed and I'm going to take you too. And I was like, okay, girl, let me know when you get a job. Yeah, like, sure, babe.
Won't hold my breath.
She got the job. Right. She got the job. She got me a job. And it was exactly how I had imagined it in my brain. It was literally an assortment of colored walls. I met my now fiance there. It just feels like it was supposed to.
It was supposed to happen that way, and
like that.
I love that. Like, describe that yummy feeling of actually seeing it happen and seeing it play out the way that you saw it in your head. Because that to me is just unmatched energy.
You know, it's so annoying, Ashley. It's like when you manifested something, or at least this happens to me, I often will forget that I was asking for it. So it's like for a while, I'll like be manifesting it real hard, right? And then it won't come to fruition as immediately quickly, as I, right. Whatever. And I'm like, meh, anyways. And then eventually it'll come though, but I'll have forgotten that I was manifesting it. So it wasn't until like a while working there that I was like, wait, you used to lay in bed and literally be in tears, like feeling such a powerful, excited emotion about the potential of working at BuzzFeed.
And now you're here.
So weird. Yeah. And we're all living in manifestation right now. Like whatever you are experiencing right now, if it's good, is likely something that you asked for before.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. Really, because I think, again, we live in this world of instant gratification and we want things now. So if I say I want this car or this amount of money or this job, whatever that is, like I want it yesterday. And you do have to be patient. And sometimes you do have that moment where you're like, wait a minute, was this something that, like, even I think about like 9-year-old Ashley, the stuff that I do now and the life that I live, she would be like, this is so friggin' cool.
Oh my God. I love when I think about that.
So it's true. You do have to have patience, but holding on to that vision and just that, like I say, it's a yummy feeling when you finally get to realize it and see it and touch it and feel it and it's there and you're like, yes, I did this.
I really did this.
Sprinkle.
Very much. I wish, oh my God, I need to be able to get back into that headspace that I was in when I was able to manifest that very easily. Now, something that I did want to touch on is the dark side of manifestation.
Yes.
So obviously manifestation is very popular in social media realms, pop culture. And some of the critiques of the idea that I've heard is like, if you're having less than favorable outcomes, it's because it's your fault. Yeah. It's your fault. Like you're not thinking positively enough. And that's why you have XYZ health problem.
Right.
And yeah, what are your thoughts on that, I guess?
So yeah, as I mentioned briefly earlier in this episode, I think that's total bullshit, if I'm being honest. I don't think that you have to be, or you should force yourself to be positive 24/7 in order to manifest. I think that actually leans a little bit more into toxic positivity because, we're human beings. In this human experience, we're going to have an amalgamation of emotions, right? And they're not always going to be feel-good emotions. Sometimes they'll be difficult emotions. And I think it's totally possible for you to still manifest even when you are sad or angry or depressed or feeling lost. And I think this concept of, well, every bad thing that has happened to you is your fault and it's a result of you not thinking positive thoughts or not believing in yourself enough. I think it's just really unfair and, doesn't really lean itself to the reality that life is going to be hard, like regardless of how positive you think on the day to day. And, I think that can really cloud people's judgment and also cause them to like not even deal with some of the more difficult emotions that they're dealing with. They're like, I'm just not even going to think about it. No, it's like, no, go to therapy, work through, cry, right? Like all of that. I think it's it's a part of just the process of living and, you know, manifesting, right? And I think of like people who are in different parts of the world, you know, it's like, are they struggling and in the space that they're in because they didn't think positive? No, like, we would never say that. So to kind of try to push that narrative onto people and make them feel bad for the bad things in their life and put it on them and kind of victim blame in a sense.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that at all.
I love that you drew that parallel between like toxic positivity and manifestation. It really does feel like there is a thin line there, and people often cross over into that toxic positivity language without being aware or cognizant that they're actually doing that. Another thing that kind of debunks that if bad things are happening to you, it's because it's your own fault because your thoughts are not positive enough. One of the inevitable things of life is the end of life, is death. And for those of us who have to be still present here on this planet while somebody else passes on, it's probably one of the most painful and excruciating experiences that is part of an inevitable human experience.
Yeah.
If you do not experience loss, then it's because you were the lost one.
Yeah.
It's universal. That negativity is going to happen at one point or another. And you thinking positively will not make it any less likely to happen to you.
Yeah. And it doesn't make life any easier. I think that it makes it harder, right? Because again,
it does.
These are real, valid emotions and feelings and thoughts. Now, of course, you have to draw that balance between how long am I going to sit in these thoughts? How long am I going to sit in these feelings, right? We don't want to just always be negative and pessimistic and down all the time. We have to find a balance. But, you know, my therapist always encourages me to not live in absolutes. So I either always have to be here or always have to be there. There's kind of always room for you to be somewhere in the middle. And that's okay, right? And I think that, you know, again, I also speak to, because in my research and manifestation, I do sort of notice a lot of the nuances between manifesting as a Black woman, a woman of color, and manifesting, you know, as a white person or a non-Black person, right? And it is important for us to acknowledge that, unfortunately, we do have a traumatic history that is a part of our DNA. It's a part of our lineage. And that's something that gets passed down. And so you can't always just ignore, okay, when bad things happen or when difficult times come up, you know, it's not a fault of you to acknowledge it and to also deal with it and work through it. And again, I think that only strengthens your ability to manifest and just have a better life, right? Overall, knowing how to work through it.
As I listened to you talk, it also made me think about, if we're going with the principle that if you just don't think about it, it'll go away. That never makes sense. It's the same as Elon Musk being like, if we can't keep talking about racism or else it won't go away. That's not how that works.
Yeah. No.
That's not how that works. In fact, if you don't give words to something, it thrives.
Yeah.
You have to be able to call things out by name in order to work through them, or else they just thrive in the shadows because you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. And I think that, again, like what doesn't get talked about enough is that you can still manifest when you're feeling shitty, when you're feeling down, when you're feeling sad. So, you know, just because you are feeling that way doesn't still mean that your manifestations are not working, that things are not working for you. But again, it is just a part of the human experience and just the inevitable path of life that everyone who is fortunate enough to be alive will go through, you know. And like you said, ignoring it tends to make things a lot worse more than it'll make things better.
Ashley, are you a vision board girly at all?
I am, but I feel like not to the extent as most people are. I used to do a lot of physical vision boards where I would find different magazines and cut things out and put up a big poster board. Now my vision boards are, shout out to Canva, digital. And I just, have something that I keep on my phone, or on my desktop to just remind me of the things that I want to manifest. But I feel like vision boards with manifesting can get a little dicey for me, just because you might have this desire to try to put like all of these different goals on the year, and I'm going to lose 20 pounds and I'm going to make $1 million and I'm going to get this. And sometimes it might cause you to just overwhelm yourself with focus, right? Because I, again, am more grounded. So I really like to focus on, okay, what action am I taking in order to get the things that I want to manifest? So I like to keep vision boards very simple, very streamlined, and then really just focusing on, okay, in my vision boards, writing out or having visual representations of how I want to feel. Like if I look at a picture of the beach, I just want to feel at peace. I want to feel calm. I want to feel rested or restored. Those might be things on my vision board, as opposed to I've got to have all of these things on my board, because then if you don't accomplish them at the end of the year or whatever time period you set for yourself, sometimes you can feel a little deflated. So
Yes.
I really like to focus on not getting too overboard with vision boards and like trying to overwhelm myself as far as the goals that I want to accomplish on them, but more so, okay, what do I want to feel? And then like, what is the vision that I have overall for my life? And that could be a few pictures, and then I'm done.
I love that you mentioned how I want to feel. That is where I prefer to manifest from. I prefer, which is why I was laughing about my 2016 manifestation wanting to work at BuzzFeed. I think more so what I was manifesting, as I mentioned, just like the feeling that was coming to me, I was manifesting that feeling, which I associated with BuzzFeed at the time.
Yeah.
But generally, I'm always trying to manifest feelings. I want my life to feel a specific way more than I want it to look a specific way. There's been so many times when I have gotten exactly what I asked for and I was unimpressed. It did not carry the feeling that I thought that it would carry.
Yeah.
For instance, for my entire life, USC was my dream school. I did not get into USC for undergrad, and I did get in for grad school. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm so excited. It's going to be so fun. I'm finally going to have my little USC dream.
Okay, Trojan.
Get to USC, fight the fuck on. Get to USC. And I'm like, oh, I hate this shit.
Wow.
I actually hate it here. The school just wasn't for me for various reasons. I've talked about it on other podcasts, but the school just was not for me. And that's what I get for manifesting something so materialistic that didn't have any real feeling associated with it,
I'm really glad that you bring that up, because I think another part of manifestation that I am still wrapping my mind around is the understanding that, your manifestation might not always look the way that you want it to look, right? So you might still get the feeling, you might still get the thing, but you were over here trying to force it and manufacture it in one way. And the universe, God, whomever was like, no, we're going to do it over here in this way. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didn't think that it would happen like that, but there it is, right? And the outcome was still the same, but it was just now you experienced it in a way that didn't look like what you thought it was going to look like, which, going back to the vision boards, that's also a reason why I do want to focus more on feelings, because I don't know exactly how it's going to look. I might be in a mansion, but it might not be this exact mansion. I might be in a brand new car, but it might not be in this exact car. I might make a certain amount of money. It might not come from my business. It could come from a stranger. It could come from the lottery. You know what I mean? So
right? Yes.
I think also just being open when you are manifesting, knowing that you believe in yourself, right? Taking the action steps, knowing what you want to feel, but then also just sort of releasing and allowing things to unfold and manifest in a way that might be different from what you think it looks like.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense. Sometimes we get so caught up on our specific material manifestation that we're not even open to other possibilities that could bring us exactly what it is that we're looking for. And I think that is why what you mentioned earlier, having some type of activity that kind of allows you to pull focus. So a coloring, going out into nature, taking a nap, even having some type of activity that allows you to do that leaves you in a more open space than it does a very like
zoned
I'm
in,
manifesting
narrow.
this thing. I'm manifesting this thing, you know, which gets exhausting. Gets exhausting. I've done it. It gets exhausting. It's
and
like, girl, I don't
too,
even care about this anymore. I don't want to keep thinking about this.
Right. And it takes the fun out of it as well.
It
right?
does.
Like,
it
I
does.
feel like also one thing that I really don't like with a lot of manifestation gurus, it's so serious. It's like, you have to be in this space. And if you're not in this space, you're going to just try it. It's like, can we just unclench the booty cheeks for a second and just relax a little bit, please? You know, make it fun. And, you know, with making it fun, I just mostly mean like allowing things to unfold and just be in awe, you know, as we talked about, be in awe of how it happens, really just being along the ride and allowing yourself to enjoy the journey each step of the way. And that's easier said than done in a lot of moments, especially when you're like, oh, I want this to happen right now, today. But, you know, I think the more that you can relax a little bit and just sort of release and then dive into these practices of, okay, I'm just going to be open. I'm going to allow opportunities to come to me. And like, also, bless you, looking for opportunities too, as well, you know, and like, okay, it could come from here. It could come from there. This would be cool. Maybe it's down this road. I think that just, it puts you in a bouncier space to be open and just to receive things maybe even faster, right? Because you're not so zoned in and focused over here, right? And I think that really helps too. It's just allowing yourself to have fun.
I agree. Oh my God, fun. That is like the easiest times to manifest, I feel. When you're just kind of like, you're a little bit loose, you're just having fun.
You're like, bring it on.
Good things
How's
happen,
it going to go?
you know? Right. It's like, oh, it's a good time in life. Now, Ashley, let me know if this is something that you've noticed as well. There are certain people in my life where I'm like, oh, you're just so manifesty. Like my fiance, his method, my fiance is the least woo-woo person you'll ever meet.
Same with my husband. So shout out to the partners who are like, man, we ain't doing all that.
I was trying to talk to this man about his astrology. I'd be like, you know, this is going on in your chart right now.
Over their
He'd
heads.
be like,
okay.
Anyways, child.
Back to
you
my
don't want to
game.
hear none of it. Right. We're literally back to my game. Quite literally back to my game. And yet he is the most manifesty person. His method is the set and forget method. So he will go really hard at something, work really hard at a specific pitch or something that he's doing. He will send it off and never think about it again, or try his best to never think about it again. And I'm like, how do you, and it always comes through, like almost always comes right on back to him. I'm like, how do you find that level of detachment? In order to get, I don't have it. I don't know if it's because I'm a Virgo moon. I'm a Gemini sun, Virgo moon, Capricorn rising. It leads itself to being a lot more hands-on, a lot more controlling. I can't find the release button. I don't know where it is. Have you noticed that you have people like that, or do you know how to find the release button?
That's a great question. I can definitely attest to being a bit more handsy and being like, no, we got to check in. We got to make sure that, you know, the wheels are still turning, you know, it's not, you know, exactly. And I think for some people, it might just be practice, right? They're just in the practice of doing it. And I think this also just speaks to like how simple manifestation can be and how sometimes we overcomplicate things to the point where
people don't even believe in it. We manifest it so hard.
No shade, no tea, but do we need 50 crystals, right? Do we need to get up at 12 o'clock or 2 a.m. every single morning and bow and, you know, pray for an hour and get into water. Yeah, exactly. Right. Do we need to bury coconuts in the sand to get what we want? Or could it be as simple as I'm just going to put ass to the pavement, work hard, right? Believe that this is possible for me, because obviously I'm not putting in this type of action if I didn't believe in myself. And then say, all right, universe, up to you. I've made my intentions known.
Damn.
And I've put it out there. I've put in the work. So it's on you now, you know, to make it happen. It kind of goes back to that fun of just allowing it to unfold how it unfolds. But yeah, I think for some people, it's just they are adopting maybe a simpler manifestation practice, like your fiance, where he's just like, all right, this is a 2-3 step process for me, and then I'm on to the next thing.
Yep.
And then, I think with the detachment, I think there are a lot of people I know who they have just gotten better with time with, okay, I know that when I get too tied to this and too attached to it, the things typically don't work as well for me. So let me try this other practice of letting go. And there's so many ways that you can do that, right? Like you can do that pretty much every single day if you wanted to. You could send a DM to somebody that you've wanted to work with and just be like, all right, I sent the DM, boom, I'm moving on. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe even in that practice of just doing it constantly, you start to build up that fortitude to just release. And then because you're doing so many actions and you're putting so many things out there, it's just coming back to you like a boomerang,
That gave me chills. That is so real. You can practice detachment every single day if you wanted to. Mm-hmm. And it can be something super small. Like you can, I don't know how to think that small right now. But
well, like I said, I mean, it could be as simple as, hey, I want to work for BuzzFeed. I'm going to shoot my shot in the DMs and be like, hey, I would love to work here. Here's my resume. Here's my portfolio. Are you guys off doing interviews right now? That could be something simple, like really quick, just a quick DM. Or it could be, even something as simple as just talking about your manifestation out loud or sharing that with your audience or putting that on your stories and saying, hey, this is something that I'm interested in, anybody have a connection, feel free to hit me up, right? Like just, I think taking specific actions, that can be something that you can do every single day. If you want to manifest a certain amount of money, is it submitting to jobs or is it, learning a new skill, right? And just not being so attached to a timeline, not being so attached to it looking a certain way. Those are all little ways that you can manifest and to take action and it not always have to, be this grandiose thing.
And that being attached to a timeline shit is what gets us caught up. It's
for
like
sure.
You're like, you are taking something real bad. You're taking something that is maybe looks a little okay on the surface because you think you're on a tight timeline and you're really missing maybe the big manifestation that would have come had you waited another 12 months.
Yeah.
Instead of grasping at the first thing that presented itself.
Ugh. And it's so hard to do, like easier said than done, right? Because, again, we live in this world where we're comparing ourselves to other people and, well, this person is married by this age and, this person has this career or this amount of success by this age and you feel behind, right? Like it's a normal experience to feel a bit behind. So you do feel like, okay, I got to speed things up. Like, let me hurry up and try to manifest and get things going. But everyone's path is different and we're not all meant to experience the same outcomes on the same timeline. And we still have so much time. I mean, there are people who are in their 80s who are manifesting things that they've never thought that they could do, right? And I think that, a part of what we should focus on more so than the timelines is, do I have a fundamental belief in myself? Do I believe in these manifestations? Am I actually doing the inner work to start shifting my mindset, my beliefs, my actions, so that, right, wicked, so that, so that I can actually start to see a difference, right? So I can start to make some changes. And that doesn't always have to look like the full manifestation, but just sometimes even just that shift in, okay, I used to think this way, or I used to do this type of behavior, and now I've shifted. Like even that can be a huge win in and of itself.
If it's something you've been intending to shift for a while and you've been doing little incremental steps to shift it, and then you really do shift it, that feels so good. I've had a couple of those moments where I'm like, I really hate that I do this thing, and now I'm like, I do that thing a lot less than I used to do it, and I'm very proud of myself for that. It is growth, and we'll take growth wherever we can get it.
All right.
I saw another thing on another podcast that was like, if something is presenting itself to you, it was like one of those full body yes things. It's like, oh, if it's not a full body yes, it's a no. But it's like, how do you know? How do you really know? You know, like what
Mm-hmm.
it can't. I feel like that's a little unrealistic too. Sometimes I'm like, so what do you say yes to? And the method that this person said that we should use, I actually don't remember who this person was. They said if it is a 7 out of 10, if you would give it a 7 out of 10, it's a no. And that's what most people get caught up on, because 7 out of 10 is pretty good. You know, you're looking at a seven, something that's a 7 out of 10, and you're like, that has most of the tenets of what it is that I am looking for. Like, that looks pretty good. Like, sure, I'll do that. If ever your answer is sure or a 7 out of 10, it's a no. It has to be 8 or better in order for you to say yes to it. And I was like, fuck, that is a good one. That is such a good one.
And it forces you to give it a number too.
It
right?
forces you to give things a number, right?
One that I like to use, this is a joke that I have with my sister, because you know, she's still actively dating, and whenever I ask her about guys, the reason how I know within 2 seconds whether or not she's interested, it is the pitch in her voice. So if I say, oh, okay, you're talking to this person, what's he like? Do you like him? If the pitch is all the way up there, I'm like, oh no, it's a no.
Yeah.
And she always laughs because she's like, you're so right. But anytime that voice is, oh yeah, I like it. The pitch is a little bit deeper and it's more solid and more grounded. It's like, okay, that we're onto something here. And I think that we have to have that. We have to question ourselves. Okay, like where am I? Am I like, this would be okay, I guess, you know, like settling? Or no, is this something that it feels like, oh, I'm excited about this. Okay. We got a little vibrato and then we got a little bass in the voice here, you know, like that also can kind of be a gauge too of whether or not it's something you really want, or you're just sort of going with out of scarcity or, you know, a closed mindset.
That is so real, because essentially what's happening when you get to those high pitches, or at least in my experience, is like, yeah, nothing's wrong. You know, is really what you're saying is, yeah, there's nothing's bad, nothing's wrong.
You're trying to talk yourself into it.
Yeah. Literally right. But what is right? What's filling you up about it? Just because nothing's wrong doesn't mean that it is necessarily right for you. So, yeah.
So true.
That's really all I had on the topic of manifestation. Ashley, are there any other points that you would like to lay out for the folks?
I think just kind of driving it home, I'm really glad that you mentioned your fiance, because I do think it is important to have a simple manifestation practice. And it is something that you can incorporate really into any part of your life, regardless of what it is that you believe, if you're somebody who is super religious or not. Like, I think manifestation at its core, it's just having dreams, goals, wanting more for yourself, and believing in yourself enough to say that I can have this, I deserve this. And then that belief is what allows you to take the actions that you need to take to make it come to life. So it really is more of just a practice of how we should go through life and this human experience, you know, versus this is something that's super woo-woo or mystical or super spiritual. And, you know, we are manifesting every day, and the more that we can just make our intentions known, put ourselves out there, and then detach, right? Let go of specific timelines, let go of how it's supposed to look. I think that puts us in a much better space to be able to manifest the things that we really want.
That detachment piece, that's always the piece, and that's always the thing that I struggle with, and I'm sure that everybody else struggles with too.
Yeah, and there is no one way to practice it. There's no one way to do it. And especially, you know, going back to our earlier point, if there are bad things happening or going through difficult times, you know, it's not always a fault of our own, right? That's just a part of life. So continue to still believe in yourself and to take action as much as you can, even in those difficult times. You can manifest literally in any and every season.
Oh my gosh. This has been such a helpful conversation for me, Ashley. Thank you so much for coming on. Please let the folks know where they can find you online and any projects that you would like to tell them about.
Absolutely. So I am on the social medias, Ashley, or Fit Body by Ashley, actually, pretty much across all platforms. I have a YouTube channel where I create fun workouts that help women get in shape. and make fitness a lot more fun and enjoyable. So feel free to check that out if you all are looking for some way, especially now that we're getting into some colder seasons and we're inside a little bit more, if you want to still groove it out. And then I also have a free workout calendar for anyone who's like, I follow a lot of workouts on YouTube, but I don't know how to put it together in an actual calendar that I can follow that's progressive and going to help me see results. So you can find that on my website, dancefitchicks.com/free calendar. And I'll have the links too available. So yeah, that's it for me.
I love that so much. And now that we're coming up on holiday season, a lot of folks are going home. And if you want to keep your workout practice going strong,
absolutely,
check out Ashley. You know?
And for me, movement is another way that I manifest as well. So way that you move your body and just pouring into your body too in a physical way, that definitely helps all the way around.
Definitely makes sense. And per usual, you can find me across all social media platforms at BPLP Pod. You can email me at blackpeopleloveparamore@gmail.com with love, hate, or anything in between.
Emotional outbursts.
Right. Whatever you want to talk about. If you want to talk to me about your manifestations, I would love to hear about them.
Yes, that part. Let's go.
You know, I love this type of thing. So that's all that we had for y'all. See y'all in a couple weeks. Bye.